How's it going, everybody? You're listening to the Playmakers Corner podcast. I'm Mazen Austin, your host for today, and we're going over some of the, runners up for our top 5 interior lineman list. It's kind of a film breakdown. Just to get started, I'm going to talk about what I'm looking for and what I'm going to basically be, doing in a way. I'm going to be talking about, each individual of these guys and look at their, their footwork, their hand fighting, their pass blocking, their pull blocking, their run blocking, their strength, athleticism, their field view, which is kind of how they see the line after they get past that first level of protection, their wow factor, and then, their big guys. So we're going to talk about size. Each one of these guys, narrowly missed my top 5 list for, offensive linemen going into this senior class. Looking at that, I'm going to go ahead and start talking about Taylor Nichols out of Douglas County High School. We're going to start with his size, which is very good, 6'1", 295. I think this guy, his size is probably one of my favorite things about him. But one of my favorite things about him that isn't his size is definitely his run blocking. He is a downhill blocker that is not afraid to get it done. He will, go through the line, smack somebody, make it to the next level, which also shows that his, his field view and his, IQ of seeing where the field is, which can't be really developed as much as it's just something some guys just have. And he is a monster at it. He'll get to that second level and he'll knock the next guy out. He'll pull block super well. His hand fighting is, pretty well, versed, I guess is what I would say there. He can handle some of these hand fighters on that run blocking level. I think that, he definitely has it and is going to be able to get it done for whatever school he ends up at next year. But going into some areas of improvement for this guy, his athleticism and his footwork, which kind of go hand in hand in a way, are something that I feel he needs to kind of better himself to get. And that being said, I think if he works on his footwork, that'll bring up his agility, which will bring up his athleticism, which will just plain out help him stomp some people into the ground. And, with better footwork comes better pass protection. His pass protection, while it isn't bad at all, don't get me wrong, it is kind of, I guess, like a wow. It's a here, sometimes here, not there, not always there all the time. That being said, I think those are really the only things for me that I feel he needs to improve on. Then going into a little bit of outlook for this guy, seeing where he's going to college and stuff like that. And I do think he can play at that next level. I think, NAIA D3 is kind of where he's at, intangibly now. But I think he could probably go D2, maybe a low-level D1 if he spent a year in a JUCO. That's kind of where I sit for this guy. I think that, if he bets on himself, goes JUCO, and kind of just handles what he needs to handle, he'll be able to, make it work. Definitely can't wait to see where this, guy does with his, next steps and everything he is doing. So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and take a short break, and then we'll get into this next guy on this list. All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and just jump right into it. We're going to talk about our next guy, Trey Lawrence out of Eaton High School, and we want to talk about size. This guy got it. 6'3", 280. He is immaculate size, I think that, my favorite thing about him is probably his strength. He throws around that size really well. Let's go ahead and talk about, how, his field view and his athleticism, while they're average, he uses them in a very great way. His hand fighting is something that I like to watch because, while his, athleticism isn't there, he uses his hands to kind of counteract the opposing player's athleticism, if that makes sense. But like I said, his strength, something that I would kill to have when I was, his size, his strength, it's something that he just definitely knows how to use, and he uses it the best, which is surprising in the pass blocking, because his pass blocking is probably my highest rated thing I gave to him. He got it done pass blocking. He, steps back, throws guys around like it's nothing, and just gets it done there. I'm going to go ahead and talk about some areas of improvement for this guy. He's definitely one of our, bigger guys, and it's kind of shown in his footwork. It's a little bit sloppy. He steps over himself during film. While he still gets it done for him on his film and stuff, watching him in games and stuff like that, he kind of steps over himself a little bit, and his feet get crossed up a little bit, which, it comes with, time and work, and he can definitely put in that work to get there. His pole blocking is something that I guess isn't there for me. He's definitely effective when he's just kicking out the D end, but if he has to pull up and lead block it all, it's not it. That's not what he's there. Over at Eaton, they use him correctly. They have him hit out the D end. They have a lead blocker run up the field with him. So they use him correctly, but the few times that he's turned up and tried to just make it work, it's not there. So then, his wow factor, which is tough for an offensive lineman to hit a wow factor for me. It's something I have on the defensive side of the ball as well when I do the D-line guys. But, unless you're getting pancake after pancake, like a couple of the other guys on our top 5 lists, the wow factor is something that's not there. He uses his strength effectively, but, with a few tweaks in his footwork and his pole blocking, he could put that wow factor through the roof. But this guy, going straight into his outlook, I feel like he is definitely a D3 type of guy. Size-wise, he's D1, so if he wanted to go to a JUCO, something like that, get his, footwork right, get his speed right, the athleticism, a little bit of agility right, he could definitely make a run and go into a low-level, maybe even high-level D1, depending on, how he develops. But it'll definitely be fun to see. And I can't wait to do a film breakdown, eventually on this guy, seeing where he is at as well. Coming up, I'm going to go ahead and talk about our next guy on this list. Like I said, all of these guys, barely missed our top 5 list for the interior offensive linemen. So each one of these guys, don't get it twisted. They're not a slouch. So when we come back, welcome back to the Playmakers Corner podcast. I'm going to go ahead and hop into this next guy, Cuben Dixon out of Dakota Ridge High School. I'm just going to go ahead and start elaborating on, his size. He's 6'1", 260. It's a little bit undersized for what he is, but I think, he kind of makes up for that in his footwork and his pole blocking. His footwork helped him kind of, get there when he was not in position. It kind of helped him get over the face and fight over the face of that defenders, all season over there at Dakota Ridge. I watched him personally play one-on-one against the Golden defense, and they're no slouches over there on defense. They got some good defensive linemen, and I watched him fight over the face of multiple blocks in the run blocking game while pole blocking to help, Noah Triplett over there get down and make a nice little run down the sideline or up the middle, whatever he needs to do. That was great to see. His athleticism is on par with probably some of the best in the state. I think that he's a very athletic guy at 260. While his size isn't the best thing for him, he's got a lot going for him. I think, I really like seeing his hand fighting, just kind of breaking through everybody's hands, doing all the, intangible things that you'd want an offensive lineman to get done for people. You just can't not want to see it, if that makes sense. I think his field view is something that I really enjoy watching. He gets to the second level, he comes through the line, and he makes a read and he does what he has to do. That being said, I think for him, I would personally like to call out his strength and say that it is great. I like the way his strength is. I like the way he plays, everything he does. He's doing it to par, if not above par, which, that's something that you can't say about a lot of different linemen throughout this state. I watched a lot of linemen film personally, and, a lot of linemen in this state, they're average. They're, they get what they have to get done, but there's a reason why we're putting him, he was probably right under number 5, if not number, not number 6, number 7. That's where this guy was. So, this guy is a great talent over there for this Dakota Ridge team, helping them, with their season going 11-1, only losing to the eventual state champs, Chatfield High School, in the playoffs. And there was an explosive offense over there at Dakota Ridge. They were throwing the ball all over, which is a testament to this guy's pass blocking. Like I said, his pass blocking is better than a lot of guys in the state. They're thrown all over. They had a great season over there at Dakota Ridge, putting up an average of, I think the lowest game I see here when I'm looking at it is 29 points. That's the lowest, or 23, in the first game against First Coast from Florida. If that's the lowest amount of points you're going to put up all year, obviously your offensive line is getting something done. I'll give the credit to the big guys because no one else does. Great work over there this season for, Cuben Dixon. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and talk about a couple things that I think this guy needs to work on to make his game just elevate to that next level. Looking at it, I think for me, if his strength, like I said, his strength is really good. If he could get it a little bit better, great. But, if we could get that wow factor up, that comes with those fundamental breaking down and just hitting. If he could get that wow factor up, for me, I think he would be, above par for that. And his run blocking, while it is good when he's pull blocking, if he's just one-on-one run blocking, that's where I saw him break down the most throughout his film. Looking at that, it is a little bit nitpicky, but that is what I think this guy needs to do to move on to that next level, which, looking up for his outlook, he does already have a commitment, over there at Dakota State University, which is an NAIA, and I've seen a lot about these guys. They play some tough, down to like hit somebody football, and I'm not gonna lie, I think this guy fits perfectly. Cuben Dixon is the guy to get this done for this offense over here, and I think he's going to be a great asset. That being said, I think he will get redshirted, and there's nothing against him on that, but redshirt wise, I think that he is, better off redshirting, getting all his intangibles and keeping that year of eligibility. But I think he's a year 2, if not a starter, a very, bring him in when they need something done type of guy. So best of luck to him over there coming out of Dakota Ridge, and when we come back, I'll talk about this next guy on this list. All right, welcome back. Let's go ahead and talk about this next guy coming out of Bear Creek High School at 6'1", 260 pounds, Isaac Torres. This guy's a footwork monster. That's what I'm going to call him because his footwork is immaculate. I think that's one of my favorite things to watch about him. His feet never cross, or if they do cross, it's on purpose. He's doing the one first step off a pull block, something of that nature. His pull, like I said, it's that first step off the pull block. His pull blocking, immaculate as well. This guy, he's a little bit undersized, but he knows how to smack somebody, which makes his wow factor kind of, a little bit higher up there for me. I gave him a 4, which is definitely not, great out of 10, but it's a lot higher than some of the guys on this list, He is definitely a dog over there at that Bear Creek, O-line. He's going to be missed because he's a senior. His size might be a little undersized, but between his footwork, his hand fighting, breaking all those hands, down and getting his hands on a defensive player to just blow him out of the water with his, pretty decent strength, run blocking, pass protection, everything for this guy is pretty solid. He's a solid offensive lineman that on this next level is going to be lucky for anybody to get, because if he puts on weight, you might have a guy that could potentially move up to, D1 or whatever, he decides going forward. That being said, I think this guy, my favorite thing to see, I've seen a lot of film on him, was watching him when he pull blocks and just blows a defensive end out of the water. I've watched him, against Chatfield, your, state champions. I watched him pole block against them in his film, and, he just blew their defensive end out of the water, went to the second level, which is another testament to his field view being very, very good. He went to that second level, hit the next guy, and he ended up pancaking the next guy too. Like I said, wow factor for this kid is a lot higher than some of the other guys I've talked about today. He is definitely someone to be watching for, if not, looking for going into, college and whatever else, he decides to do with his football career. That being said, I'm going to talk about some areas of improvement for this guy. So looking at some areas of improvement, this guy over here, I think that his biggest area of improvement for me is his pass protection. I think that, he's an average pass protector at best, and he needs to be able to step back, put his hands on somebody, and let them come to him. He kind of reaches a little bit. His size is something that he needs to work on. Being only 260 pounds and 6'1". 6'1", not a bad height. 260 pounds, that's not that high up on the level of, where he should be. I guess, if he got a little bit bigger and let people come to him, he could probably overpower him even better because he already has great strength for his size. So if he gained a little weight and his strength got a little better, man, this dude's going to be a force to be reckoned with. Moving to the second level, he sees the field very well, but I think sometimes he falls flat on execution. He ends up taking the second guy that he sees instead of the first guy because he doesn't execute the proper angle, stuff like that. So looking at angles and changing different spots for him would be where I would say he would probably best off to work downfield on field view. Looking into, outlook for this guy, he has also committed, like Cuben Dixon, to Dakota State football, which is a NAIA program, and I think it's also a great fit for him. They like their linemen over there, they're big guys, and I think that just like Cuben, he's gonna redshirt. They're gonna get his size up there. They're gonna help him get a little bit bigger. And I think personally he's probably right now a D2 player, so playing it in NAIA gives him a chance to kind of work on the things that he needs to work on, start for probably a year, and maybe transfer to a D2, D1, depending on what he wants to do. If he wants to play football and he, loves it over there at, Dakota, go ahead and get it. Do what you got to do and, bet on yourself, and you can actually get this done because he is someone to watch for coming up, in the future. I would love to, be able to see what he does and where he's going to be going. So, with that being said, congratulations on college. And, coming up next will be our final guy I'm going to talk about for this episode. Alrighty, so go ahead and hop into this next guy. We're talking about a guy out of Mountain Vista High School, Cooper Comeford. He doesn't really have a size listed, but he's definitely shows it on his film that he's a big dude. I give his size about a 6. I think he's probably around 260. But going into it, I think his run blocking is immaculate. I love watching him go up the middle. He makes the right move. He gets where he needs to go. He hits who he needs to hit when he needs to hit them. That being said, I think his pole blocking is something to be, sought after on that next level of football because he makes the right read. If the defensive end steps out and up, he hits him. If he cuts in and gets, washed into the actual linemen themselves, he'll cut up and he'll make that block at the next level and be a lead blocker, which is something that I think is a testament to his athleticism. I don't think, a lot of the other guys that I've talked about today have the, athletic ability right now to move to that next level and hit that guy like he hits them, which, that's something to be said because this guy gets there and he does it well. I think, being, not having a size for him exactly, but being the size he is, he does need to gain a little weight, and that'll kind of help him, be able to make that wow factor hit, which he doesn't really do, but he makes his blocks, and he is a fundamentally strong offensive lineman. And that is being said, I guess for a smaller guy, being fundamentally strong is something that you have to do. You cannot not be fundamentally strong. And this guy is fundamental, and that's something that I like to see. Going into some areas of improvement, though, for this guy, his footwork is something I think he needs to work on, because he crosses his feet too much, and I think that slows him down just a hair, which is, like I said, his athleticism is really good already. If he could, not false step, not step over himself, he could, get that athleticism up to another level where it could probably help him in the pass protection game, because I've seen him break down in a lot of pass protections. There's a few plays on his film that he low-key could have got called for a holding penalty or something along those nature, because he's grabbing a little bit outside to try and make up for him not having the footwork to stay with these pass rushers. His hand fighting needs some work. His hands kind of stay inside a lot. There's not a lot of, shiftiness, not a lot of trying to fight it. He just tries to overpower and get his hands on somebody right away, which isn't a bad plan, but, some of these pass rushers out there, they're not afraid to smack your hands away, and you got to be able to take it and, kind of run with it. So, that being said, I think this guy is definitely a very, good, player. I think that if I was him in the offseason, personally, I would focus on, my footwork and my hand fighting, and I think everything else kind of falls into place after that. With that being said, though, I do think, looking at everything, I think he's a D2 style player. I can't find him on Twitter or anything like that with any commitments, anything of that nature. We see him on Twitter, but he has like 2 retweets total. So get your Twitter game going, man. But I think he's a D2 style player, size-wise, athleticism and everything. Maybe go to an NAIA or a JUCO and kind of, get that next level stuff going. It does look like he's a baseball player if he decides baseball's the path for him. Best of luck no matter what he decides to do. But I think, if he went to a JUCO, he could probably get his size up, work on his footwork, maybe 1 or 2 years in a JUCO, move to a D2, maybe a low-level D1 program, and, do his thing over there and just, enjoy playing football. So, with that being said, this is my last guy I'm going to be talking about for, as Cody put it in his last episode, the best of the rest for the top 5 guys. These guys are the ones I narrowly missed my list, as I said in the beginning. Congratulations, to these guys on, a great football career and doing everything that they've done over there at their schools. Again, I'm going to go back down the list. We had Taylor Nichols out of Douglas County High School, Trey Lawrence out of Eaton High School, Cuben Dixon out of Dakota Ridge, Isaac Torres out of Bear Creek, Cooper Comeford out of Mountain Vista is my last guy to be talked about. All of these guys, definitely not slouches. There's a reason why they were just underneath our top 5 list. I spoke about the reasons, and everything like that. With all that being said, that will end this episode of the Playmakers Corner podcast. You can find us at Playmaker Corner on Twitter, at Playmakers Corner on Facebook, Instagram, Twitch. If you haven't seen that, we are now live streaming. Go ahead and give us a follow there so you can see our live stream about, girls flag football coming up on Tuesdays. We will also be doing, live breakdown reactions of people's films on there as well. And if you haven't heard, your name on this list, don't, get discouraged or anything like that. These were the best of the rest. You can go ahead and send us, a request to do a request episode like this. Maybe break you down on a live stream one day. Go to any of our social medias, go to our link tree. There's a Google form, fill it out with the best of your, capability, send us over some film, and, let us get you, broken down and help you find out, what you should be working on in the off season. I've been your host, Mazen Austin. You are listening to the Playmakers Corner podcast. Peace.